My name is Rob Houchins. I'm the vice chair of this committee. Our chairperson, Larry Otterbach, is not able to be here today. For today's meeting, if we could, thank you. Amy is putting up the how we'll be going through each of the cases today. Today we do have 5 different cases. The first case we'll have to remove from the table because it was tabled in a previous meeting. But before we get started, let me introduce you to the people that you'll be working with today. To my left, your right, is Mike Riley.
Morning.
Mike has been here for many years, and his wife actually served on this committee before as well. Again, my name is Rob Houchins. To my right is Shelley Nunn. She'll be serving as secretary for this meeting. On further down is Ron Fonk. And then on the end is Tom Clemens. For this meeting, we do have our staff present. Our staff is here to not only assist the community in helping us work through all the regulations and to figure out how to serve the county, but they're here to assist us at this meeting. So you will see us asking them questions on a technical basis and providing their expertise. In this meeting is their director, Jim Urban, the assistant director, Amy Alvey, and our senior planner, Tom McIntyre. For the meeting, as you can see on the screen, we're doing the introduction call to order. We'll be swearing in the staff. And then what we'll be doing is going through each of the steps that you see below. There'll be a presentation by the staff showing us exactly what the case is made up of. Next will be the presentation by the applicant. And then after that would be anyone speaking in favor of the applicant. Then we'll go to the next step, was anyone opposing the application. Then we go into rebuttal, and this is where the applicant will go first, then the opposition. Once we go through there, that's when testimony will end. So if anything needs to be entered into the record, whether it be paper, whether it be verbal testimony, that's when testimony will end. So we will go into final statements. Final statements go in the opposite order. The opposition will speak first, and then the applicant will speak last. By that point, what we'll be doing is asking any final questions of any of the board members to make any clarification. Then we will actually close the floor for discussion. At that point, or close the floor. Then we will have discussion amongst the board members about what motions we might put up before us. And then we'll actually accept a motion and either accept and make a variance or actually deny the application. It can be the possibility that something is put off until a future date if it so requires. So as we go through these steps, again, for those of you wishing to speak, don't worry about it. We'll have, the only request that we have is that we try to maintain the time limitations we have in each section. Again, you're here just to tell us what's going on. Well, we will be going through formal procedures. We really want you to just tell us what it is you want us to know, okay, in the very simplest of manners. All right. If we could, next, if we could swear in the staff.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And on the first case, what we need to do before we go into any application or any presentation is we do need to have a formal motion, second, and approval to remove this case from the table and put it into being active. So I would accept a motion at this point.
I'd like to make a motion to take docket OC 19015 off the table.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor of taking docket OC-19-015 off the table and putting it into our active log, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. It is now an active case, and it will be the first case that we will hear. So, for staff? Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we should read the docket first, shouldn't we?
Docket OC 19-015. An application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed structure located at 7600 Commonwealth Drive, Crestwood.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Hold on, give us 1 second. One thing I just was noticed, if you do have cell phones, if you would put them on vibrate, and if you do have anything that you need to speak on the cell phone, please excuse yourself from the court before you do that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. So an application has been filed for a side yard setback for a proposed attached garage at 7600 Commonwealth Drive. It is zoned R1 and is 1.05 acres. Here shows an aerial, followed by the zoning map, R1, and surrounded all by R1. The applicant is requesting the side yard setback variance of 40 feet for a proposed 40 by 32 structure, so 1,280 feet, detached garage to be 10 feet from the side property line. There's a 30-foot electrical and telephone easement, a 12-foot water line easement, and a 10 by 30 LG&E easement along both frontages. The subject property is a corner lot and must observe the 50-foot building setback along both Commonwealth Drive and Lincoln Trail as shown on the record plat. So, as mentioned before, there's quite a few easements, and I tried to break it down as simple as possible for everybody to understand. So here we have the 10 by 30 easement. So it's just these guys right here. There's also one here, but didn't think it was necessary to show that. So here's a 12-foot water line easement. Here's your 30-foot electrical and telephone easement, followed by the 50-foot setback. And here's our buildable area. Now we have all these put together to try to, clear up any misunderstandings that may possibly happen. So here we have the house, existing house right here. Per the plat, this is it's right up along the building line for both frontages. So that house cannot get any bit closer. Here we have the proposed structure. It is going to be, right here is your 10 feet from your property line. And then it's still within the front yard setback, or the 50-foot building setback. One of the main reasons they're attempting to place it up here is because of septic field, and obviously we all know that we can't build on top of a septic field. So the applicant's justification statement states, there's existing lateral lines at the southern portion of the property which prohibit any structure from being placed along the Commonwealth Drive frontage. The proposed attached garage will house a large camper, and the applicant would like to build an effective or attractive detached garage complete with wainscoting and residential garage doors and windows. The structure will match the house with neutral colors of light stone and medium gray. These are the building plans submitted by the applicant. So the proposed 40 by 32 structure will be 13 feet from the center of the water line, which is outside of the 12-foot easement. Per the applicant, the water line encroaches 2 feet into the 60-foot right-of-way of Lincoln Trail. I have a graphic to follow. So these are pictures submitted from the water department. So this is the blue line here is your existing water line. Right here is where the applicant would like to place a structure. And here we have 13 feet. Down here you can also see this is your 13-foot line, this is your 12-foot line, and this is your 11-foot line, which is just a close-up of down here. The property owner, well, this is also submitted from the water department. Mr. Kemper has been advised there will be a 12-foot easement from the center of the water line towards his proposed building, and Oldham County Water District does not have a conflict with the placement of this building using the above specification. Here's the second of 4. So AT&T has a grant of it's granted an encroachment. Spectrum, in addition, has also granted the encroachment of the underground utility easement at 7600 Commonwealth Drive per Dino Barber. Additionally, LG&E has released their easement. They will record this in the Oldham County Clerk's office once something is approved, or possibly when it gets approved. So here we have the septic field, which is essentially over here. Here's looking in from Lincoln Trail. Building's gonna go somewhere down here. So here's a look from a little further down Lincoln Trail. Now this is just where the building will be sited. There was an existing fence, so these are just the post holes essentially. And this is looking in from the other additional property. The applicant is requesting a side yard variance of, the proposed side yard is 10 feet and the requested variance is 40 feet. I'm happy to entertain any questions at this point.
I guess I'll go ahead and start. Do you know, or do I need to ask the applicant, why the building's not being proposed to go further behind the house?
I'll defer that question to the applicant.
Okay.
Do you have any pictures that you highlights, because it's more of the side yard? So it's, the whole thing sits inside the 50-foot.
Correct. This should be right here, that line, that should be 8 feet. Because the applicant is requesting to be 10 feet from their property line, and it's a 32 feet at this point. So that's 10 plus 32, 42, and 50 is 8.
Tom, could you please pull up that image? Based on the image that you're pulling up at this time, while you were in the neighborhood, did you identify any other properties that have received such variance previously that would set a precedence or some level of being in keeping with the community or the neighborhood?
Sure. No, I did not. Nothing really stuck out to me while I was driving through the neighborhood that was of this caliber.
Okay, thank you.
Because you're correct, it's within the setback. I mean, it is quite a bit. You have a 50-foot setback and you're asking me 10 feet from your property line, so I did not see anything that struck me as coming that close.
And as we're viewing the overhead image of the surrounding properties, unless someone else is seeing something I don't, I'm not seeing one that that has received such variance previously either. Thank you.
What I can say, and I'll also defer to the applicant, is that he wants to use the same driveway right here. So that does have some of the reasons why he wants to have it so far up, so he can swing his trailer in and use the existing driveway. And again, defer that to him.
All right. Do we have any further questions? If not, thank you, Tom. We could ask the applicant to come forward.
Morning.
Good
Morning.
morning. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Name and address.
It's Stephen Kemper, and it's 7600 Commonwealth Drive.
All right, Stephen, if you could just tell us what you're trying to do and justify what you're trying to ask for.
Well, it's always been a dream for us to move. We just moved out here in September, and we've always had a travel trailer, and I've always wanted it inside of a building. And not knowing about the building lines and all this, I just thought, well, that piece of property is a perfect place to put my garage. And then found all this out. And you was talking about the driveway, and the driveway needs to be there, so when I'm backing the trailer down the driveway, I'm backing straight into the building. You were saying something about putting the building behind the house. There's no way to cut the trailer around off the driveway into there if it was a side garage. This way, if it's facing where it's at, it's basically from Lincoln Trail. It'll just almost be a straight shot back down to the garage or pole barn.
Okay, so tell us more about what kind of building is, how it'll fit into the neighborhood, but specifically why it is you need to have it that far in. I think it would be what we're after.
Well, if I go back farther in the yard, then the yard starts tapering off back into those woods. So basically where I've got it, it's pretty well a level area. And then if I moved it over, say, to the left towards close to the house, there again, it would be too hard to cut the trailer in there. And there, I've always wanted a building because I don't like the idea of my travel trailer sitting out in my driveway, which I can put it there right now. But I think it would just look better in the neighborhood if it's inside of a building and you don't see a travel trailer sitting out in the yard, even though they're all over the neighborhood. And it was just always a dream to have a building to where I can put my trailer in there, plus have like a little shop or something beside it. And that's why I went with the 32 foot wide. I can make it narrower, but I think then it would look like a matchbox just for the trailer. You know, I'm trying to bring it out a little wider to make it look more attractive, and I'm adding windows and everything to it, probably facing Lincoln Trail, just so that it looks more attractive. That's why I went more expensive on the wainscoting to give it a two-tone effect instead of just a aluminum siding building or whatever. And I tried to match the color of the house as close as I could, and then I used a neutral color, which would be the bottom part of the wainscoting would be a light gray, and I think the roof is also a light gray. And I'm probably gonna put shutters on the windows and just to decorate it up.
All right. Are you done speaking with your part? Because we don't want to start asking questions until you're finished.
The reason it's not going behind the house, behind the building line is because I couldn't cut the trailer around. That would be the main thing. So it needs to sit where I'm wanting it in that area. And I can't do anything on the left-hand side because that's all the ladder lines. And here I'm thinking, well, that's a perfect place to build it until I tried to pull the building permit and then found out about building lines and utility right away. I'm looking up there and seeing LG. I've just retired from LG 10 years ago, and I knew that the overhead lines weren't going to be involved, not thinking that there could be more underground utilities, which now when I had it all butted, it's not even in the utility right-of-ways anyway. The AT&T is 5 foot on the other side, which is in the building line, and the water line is halfway down the property line. There's nothing in the utility right-of-way area of that 30 foot. But that's about all I can say.
Tom, can you put this on the overhead? It's not in your presentation? No? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, sir, when we look at some of these cases and encroachment into right-of-ways and those kind of things, we're dealing with inches or feet or whatever. But in this case, what is seeming to me is that the entirety of the structure that you're trying to do actually breaks inside of what would be the normal setback. And so as we consider these cases, one of the things we have to do is we have to consider what other alternatives are there that allow someone to accomplish what they're after, yet live within the restrictions or to minimize encroaching as much as possible. So for an example, one of the questions I have to you is what other things did you consider? So for example, when I look at it, I think, well, I understand what you're trying to do because you build a barn, you build it long one way so you can back your trailer into where it is. So as I look at it, I question, so what if you turned the building 90 degrees and then scooted it in behind the house? Why wouldn't that be a viable option to consider and then back it in off a separate drive off of the side road there on Lincoln
Lincoln
Trail?
Trail, well, that is a real steep embankment right there. A water, it's not really a ditch, but it's where, in other words, you would have to put probably a 4-foot culvert in there and build that whole ditch line up, which then that's gonna throw water off different directions, not knowing how that would handle. It could bring water on down into the backyard. Because it's, I guess, standing in where I'm wanting to build a building to looking at Lincoln Trail, it's probably a good, I would say at least 8 foot higher than where the building site would be. So there again, you would have to put probably 15 foot of culvert in there, fill that in with gravel, put dirt in there, and then that's changing the whole water table coming off of Lincoln Trail. And there again, I don't know where the water would go if I would do that. Not only that, it would be a major expense to do that.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Steer away from the placement for just for a moment. I'm having difficulty reading this. Is the building 12 feet tall on the sidewall, or is it 17 feet tall on the
It's,
sidewall?
I think it's 16 foot. So the sidewalls would be 16 foot because of the door, the one door for the trailer is 14 foot. And I think they said they had to come up another 2 foot for the garage door opener and the pitch of the roof.
Okay.
Because I asked them if I could come down a little bit lower, and they said that the garage door openers wouldn't clear
Sure.
the 14-foot door.
I've
there-
never pulled a travel trailer, so I've got some questions for you. Maybe you can educate me a little bit.
Yes, sir.
The building's 40 feet long. Am I reading that correctly?
That is right.
What's the length of your travel trailer?
The trailer is 35 and a half foot long. That's from the rear of the trailer to the hitch,
Okay.
which I gave me a little bit more to I can walk around the trailer. That's why I went 40 foot instead of 36 foot.
So when I'm at a truck stop, there's an area this big, and I watch a guy pull in with a 40 to 53-foot trailer, whips around a lot, pulls forward, and puts it right in there, or they pull up. I've also seen at some of these locations that, like Dollar Generals, where parking lots are quite limited, and the operator's got to pull up and almost virtually jackknife that trailer
is right.
and put it in. Now, I've never pulled one, so I'm not
That's the
questioning
difference
your
between,
ability.
that's the difference between a fifth wheel or a pull-behind trailer.
So yours is off what I would
Mine's a
refer to
ball
as the
trailer.
ball. Okay, all right. So,
And-
and that's what I'm asking
Yeah,
for
you don't
clarification.
cut a hole really as quick, nowhere near as quick as if you had a fifth wheel.
Okay.
Because you can basically jackknife your pickup truck underneath the trailer to back it, which will cut it a lot quicker.
I
don't have that.
I'm following what Rob's saying is, usually as we're reviewing these, someone's asking to get within that building limit a couple of feet, not the entire building, and then some all the way into that space. And I'm following Rob's line of thinking as well as, is there any way to position this building? Because in addition to, I understand what you're attempting to achieve, you're also in a neighborhood of 200 plus houses, and that's why I asked earlier when Tom was making the presentation, was there another precedent that's been set somewhere within this area? And now in addition to that, we're talking about a building that is 16 and potentially 20 feet tall at its peak, sitting all the way into that space, that this is not going to be in keeping with your neighborhood. And I share in the concerns that Rob has as to the placement of it. The good news is your home that you have is on a walkout basement from the images that I saw. So from what I can see, I'm speculating that this building won't be taller than the structure that you reside in.
No, it won't.
But when it's sitting, I think 28 feet from the asphalt edge, I'm not quite sure exactly where, when you're sitting that close to the road edge, this is going to be a monster sitting along the side of the road.
And I did take that into consideration, and I'm thinking with it sitting down lower off of Lincoln Trail or Commonwealth,
It won't appear to be
it
so
won't
large.
be as, it
Yeah.
won't appear to be as tall. It
And
would only,
I noticed
your
that
height
in
would
your
be
images. As
right
that
at the
terrain.
driveway.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Because I'm not out there I don't want something ugly neither.
Sure, it's on your property.
Yeah, and I'm aware of all the other people around me. I don't want that. And that's why I went with the neutral colors on the building. I mean, I could make it a red barn, but I don't want to see a red barn sitting out there in the middle of my yard, and everybody else has got to look at it too. But there is another building 5 or 6 houses up from me that's got the taller building and the bigger garage door on it too, and it sits right behind their house. What's really throwing it off is because of maybe being a corner lot. If it was going down the street and the buildings sit there, well, you drive down and you wouldn't even look back there. But me being on a corner, it is going to be sitting there. But I'd still feel like being 10 foot lower, 8 foot lower than the Lincoln Trail, it's sitting down in the valley more than sitting up right on top of the street and looking at it.
So if I understand your testimony, you're saying the barn, as your pole barn, as I'm referring to it, because that's what's on the drawing on the screen, is like 8 foot lower than the street? How
Yeah,
much-
the Lincoln Trail sits probably, and I'm only using this, it may be 6 foot, but Lincoln Trail sits higher than my backyard.
Okay.
Because it comes off the side of Lincoln Trail and then tapers down, and that's kind of like a ditch line running through there.
But your driveway is not 6 or 8 feet
Yeah,
down
at the
from
bottom of the
Lincoln Trail.
driveway by the house, going into my garage and the house is probably 6 to 8 foot lower than Lincoln Trail.
So your driveway then, if we
It comes
extended that.
comes down off of Lincoln Trail and then levels out.
Okay, so then your driveway then would just would be flat with the base of the building as you have it proposed right now?
That is right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, where you got the turnaround pad on the side of the garage, and the buildings would be only like 15 to 17 foot back off that driveway. And then, of course, the concrete would be extended up to that. The pictures don't show that. It's definitely, like I said, it's a good, its side view might be one more back. Yeah, that right there is probably, that is Lincoln Trail where the pickup truck is, and that sits probably 6 foot to, I'm just guessing, 6 to 8 foot lower than the Lincoln Trail.
Okay, I have a question. On this picture that we're viewing right now, what is that structure across the street behind that tree?
That is another garage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a 2.5 car concrete block garage.
Okay. Thank you.
The doors are facing the pickup truck.
Okay. So there's a detached garage right across the street?
detached- yeah,
And there's
detached
another one
garage.
right behind your lot too, isn't there?
Behind me, yes.
Right,
It's a
on the
metal
side of the
building behind
trees.
there, yes.
Tom, do you have this one in your presentation? I'm asking Tom to pull up the picture provided by the Oldham County Water District, because to the question of the buildings that you guys just pointed out, it shows then how far off the roads they are.
I think I hit it on there. I can tell you that right here. The center of the water line is 17 foot off the center of the street of Lincoln Trail. And then from the center of the water line to where the proposed building would be is the 13 foot that they requested. And he basically told me that there would be no problem, as long as
Who?
the guy from the water company. He told me that if I give him at least 13 foot from the center of the water line to the side of the building, he's good with that. And Tom was telling me to tell you that the AT&T will be going underneath the building. Well, they told me that as long as they got the right to direct bore under the building, if they ever had to replace the cable, is that fine? I said, yes. He said, it's the old type copper cable, and he said, we won't replace that anyways. We'll just go around the building and hook in and put fiber optic in it. So he said there was no problem with that neither.
Stephen, one of the questions that I think we struggle with when we're granting variances is that we can look at the current situation, and you've done a very good job of going to all the people that are using the current utility setback. And you've said, give me information that says whether or not this would be a problem. And you've done a very good job of that. But one of the things that we also have to consider is what could happen in the future. In other words, those setbacks are done to serve the community on a broader basis. So while I don't see anything in the immediate future, I also don't see this neighborhood not being used for hopefully decades and decades and 100 years past where we're at right now. So one of the things we struggle with is going inside of setbacks is for the basic public good. In other words, there's a 50-foot setback so that if, for example, one day there is a push to put in remove septics and put in sewer systems, there's enough room there to be able to accomplish what all the different things might need to do. The setbacks are set in for the general public good. So my struggle, I'm not speaking for the rest of the members up here, is the extent to which it's like if the building were 5 feet, 10 feet, some setup back into what you're trying to accomplish here, then we could say, okay, well, could that be worked around, and where are the water lines? Which again, you've done a good job of showing us those kind of things. The question that the problem that I'm struggling with here is, I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I understand that there's a 6 to 8 foot, you're guessing, I understand, coming off of building it, and then there is a fall off on the property. To what extent, I guess I don't know that fall off extent. But having the entirety of the building built entirely within the setback is a struggle to come up with the reason. I appreciate the fact that you are trying to put something in a building as opposed to have it setting on your property. I think that is an improvement. I think your intent in that part is good. But I'm trying to figure out if there's any way to make it where it wasn't encroaching in its entirety. That's my question to you then is, what could you do in terms of pushing it farther away from Lincoln Trail? How far away could that be accomplished? So that's my question.
Well, there again, in my mind, if I slid the building closer to the house, which you got, there's roughly like 10 foot between the corner of the house to the front corner of the building. You see that?
Based on the drawing, I think I
Let's see, I think it's the same.
Tom, can you put this?
So, okay, say for instance, the front corner, the front,
You can touch the screen. You can touch the TV screen to point at where you're
Okay.
talking about. It'd be easier for them to see.
okay.
Circle right there. Go up to the
All right, this front, let's see here, right here,
Corner closest to the house.
yeah. If I slid it this way to the back corner of the house, there's 10 foot right there. From that front corner, left-hand corner to the back corner of the house is 10 foot between the two. Am I making sense on that?
Keep going.
Okay, if you slid it over, it could be slid over, the building could be slid this away and still leave the gap between here. And the only reason I did that is because I think it looks better if you're looking at the building, you're seeing a gap between the house and the building compared to sliding that building over, and now it's like just a straight line like this from here to here and straight back. To me, it would look more attractive. I mean, that's sliding over 10 foot, but then it looks like it's a straight line down the garage of the house, and then now the building starts. You still have a gap between the two, but when you're looking at it coming down the street, it'll look like it's just all one great big building, in my eyes. I think it looks better if you had a bigger air gap in between the two buildings and slide it over. That's why I did that.
So did you just say you could put the building behind the house?
No, still wouldn't be able to cut the trailer if I did that. I'm just saying the building could be slid over, looking at the new building to the left, but then I just don't, well, it could be slid over a little bit, yes.
When you say over, do you mean farther away from Lincoln Trail?
Yes.
What's the distance that you have from the rear corner of the house structure to the front corner of the building structure? I don't see a dimension on that drawing.
Let's see. From the back corner of the house to the front corner of the building is 17 foot.
Okay. And then on the small door, the large door, I understand, is where you're going to be putting your travel trailer.
That is right?
What's the use of the small door? Is that where your workshop space is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, and an extra garage.
Lawnmower and different
Yes.
things like that? Or are you intending to put an automobile in there?
No, well, I mean, my truck will fit in there, but as it is, it'd be my riding lawnmower, and I got a golf cart, and
Sure, so, but
It's
you're
a
speaking
business
about,
shop.
you're talking about aesthetically speaking from the roadway, when you're standing at a flat plane and viewing the home from the front, you felt that having the house and the garage separate so you could see between those looked more aesthetically pleasing.
yes.
But in that statement, it also puts you further into the area that we're struggling with, trying to make sense of putting the entire building within that area.
Yes.
So where I'm going with this question would be is, not only could you move it that 10 feet over so that that plane, to your point, would be at the same line, my questioning then would be is, why can't you go 15? Because an automobile or a golf car or a riding lawnmower can cut in a 17-foot area, whereby getting that building further away from Lincoln Trail. And I think that I think that you can see we're struggling trying to make sense of this, and we're also trying to come up with a way that we can let you leave out of here today, trying to achieve what you're attempting to achieve, but also trying to keep in mind to what Rob's point was, I own a property that sewers went through, and, they had to do excavation and all that other stuff. If in the event that, and we don't have a crystal ball, something were to be done that was going to change the way the infrastructure for the neighborhood lies, this building may be an enormous issue moving forward because the entire building is placed beyond the building limit. And we're trying to we're thinking out loud with you, and we're trying to help you achieve what you want. Because from my position, this is not something that we typically have a conversation on. It's usually a couple of feet, as Rob alluded to earlier. So I'm just thinking out loud with you, trying to come up with a way that we can attempt to mutually agree that we can help you achieve your goals.
To take it the next step, if the way I look at your drawing, where you've got the large door closest to the highway, and the way the driveway comes back, it looks like to me you're gonna have to cut way back. If to stay in your driveway, you'd have to cut way back to go over and use the door on the far side. You'd have to come in the driveway and then go back towards the road to get it in. Because it's showing it's 30 feet from there. So that means the entirety of the door that you're proposing would be closer to the road than your driveway is. So to me, that, it doesn't make sense what you're... Can I have that drawing, please? Place that up there. We're continuing to move down this road. If we're at the end of the time, can I have a motion to extend the time?
I'd like to make a motion to extend the time on this case.
Do we have to go a specified amount? Yep,
Uh,
10 minutes?
10 minutes, yes.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
A motion to second to extend the time for 10 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So on the drawing that I've got on there is that I've circled where the door is, and and again, it's approximate, but if the way it is, I'm looking at the driveway, that door is entirely closer to Lincoln Trail than the driveway. So it doesn't make sense to me that the building should be that far. And again, sir, what we're trying to accomplish is help you accomplish what you're trying to do. So we're trying to figure out, is there any way you could move the building farther away from Lincoln Trail? And right now, as is proposed, it doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't look like you can actually back straight into there without moving the building. Because if you look at there's that 30 foot, it shows 30 foot from the Lincoln Trail to your driveway. And I'm like, if that's the case, because that makes sense, because the house is 50 foot from the side, and if that's 30, that means your driveway is 20. So to me, you need to have the building edge at least 30 foot from having it line up with your driveway.
Well, that bottom pad where I turn around, that was going to be made wider. In other words, it was going to come out the right-hand corner of the building straight over to my front of my house, or front of the existing the garage on the side of the house.
So you were widening the driveway.
That was going to be widened there, due to backing the trailer down there too.
Okay.
I think at one time there was gravel down in there or something, and grass had grown over the years. But I could, let's see, that's from the center of the water line, it's 13 foot. And there's 10 foot there.
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest something?
Please.
If you find out if there's anybody speaking either in favor or against and move past that, in the meantime, you could potentially table this while he's contemplating this. it's nearly impossible to stand up here and come up with an answer that's going to be specific. So maybe you can move through this and then get to a point where you just table it, let him figure it out, and then come back with another response. I also have an idea, but I don't want to present it while it's his time.
Okay. Sir, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Okay, if I have 10 foot there, what do you think y'all would give me if I just slide the building over?
Let me flip it on the question back to you. I'm not trying to be flippant. I'm not.
Okay.
The question is based on the topography of the land, based on how far it falls off. The perfect answer would be move it back off so it doesn't set within it at all. Then you don't have to get our approval. But you're telling me based on the way the land lies that that wouldn't be possible. My question back to you is how far could you do it, accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and minimize the amount of feet that you could go in? So if you came back and said, I can slide it 1 foot versus 10 foot versus 20 foot versus, the longer it gets, the harder it is for us to approve in general. I'm not speaking as the particulars of how this case would be voted on. I can tell you, though, that what we're looking for you to do is to help us figure out how to let you accomplish what you need to do while minimizing the impact to the general community by encroaching the least amount. So I need your help to answer that.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
All right. So is there anything else you'd like to say or any questions right now, or so we can move forward to the next steps? And again, we'll have you back up here, but we want to see if there's any for or against as been suggested by,
Back up next month?
no, today.
Okay.
Just a few minutes.
Okay, okay.
Just gives you a chance to think about the
Okay,
question that I
that's
just,
fine.
the question you asked to me that I flipped back to you.
Right,
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Do we have any testimony or anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, do we have any testimony from anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, then we're down to the rebuttal section. We didn't give you but about 30 seconds.
These are just trying to help you help him. First of all, again, my point was that he's standing up here contemplating how to back his trailer in without scribing it, without thinking about it, and guessing at what it is. So there are 2 points that I have that might help this. One is, this is the maximum encroachment that he's applying for. And we always work with applicants, whether there's a variance or not. So a possibility is that you could consider approving this, asking him to consider pushing it back. And as he grades and starts to look at where the foundation goes, with the idea that it's going to go back, because I'm not sure you can come up with an exact number today. The other thought I had is that if you look at this picture, this is where the water line is, and the Water District has a letter that says they're not opposed to the application. The electric, LG&E has also said that they're not opposed based on the plan they got. It's overhead. You could consider saying, what if you put plantings along this side of the building which would soften the effect? If you look behind this, there's a line of trees. So if he were to plant something that didn't grow up into the power lines, but at least soften the side of the building, when you saw the picture across the street, it's not as close, but there's a tree in front of it, and that helps soften the impact. So you could think about things like that as a condition of making this easier to kind of decipher. My point again was, if you tabled it for just a few minutes, let him go think about it and come back, after another docket or two or whatever it might take, for him to come back with a better answer as opposed to trying to wing it. So those were just my thoughts.
May I ask a question of you, Jim? One of the things that I'm looking at that has crossed my mind, and I'm trying to make sense of it, is do we create a sight distance issue with this large of a structure being that close to the road edge, or is that's just not something that's an issue to speak of?
I would say the sight distance issue is the existing trees that are much closer to the pavement. And his driveway is far enough away that I don't see that on the overhead. you know, the aerial photograph rather, let me flip here. If you use this as an example, you know, again, his driveway is far enough away from even the intersection that it doesn't create a sight distance for him coming out.
I
And I
also
don't think the
think-
traveling people on Lincoln Trail would have an issue seeing his vehicle come out of this driveway because
Sure.
there's a building. Because I think, again, the trees are what's really gonna block any sight distance.
If my memory serves correctly, I think that there's a stop sign at that intersection as well. Tom's saying yes. But, and if it's in a neighborhood, it's 25 miles an hour. Again, I just wanted to put it out there because as I'm looking at the overview, it gives me some level of indication that perhaps Lincoln Trail may go on at some point in time, and I don't want to speculate as to what may happen later, but it's my recollection that there's a stop sign at that intersection. But again, with what we're looking at, this is just closer than I've seen a structure to a road edge in a great period of time. And I was just curious if that was a concern that the county had maybe brought up as well, but it doesn't sound like that's an issue.
You know, there may be another issue if you were to say, put in another driveway, having driveways close to each other, but again, this is primarily an accessory
Sure.
structure, accessory driveway, but I think it's better to have one and try to figure out, as you all are doing, you seem to indicate that you're trying to figure out how to approve this, and again, it's gonna be difficult to get an exact number guessing at how to back a vehicle in there.
And that's why I'd asked that question earlier, since I've never operated
Right.
what he has, and I don't know the characteristics of operating that vehicle and trying to maneuver it and stuff, is why I was asking that question.
It's easier to back a tractor trailer into a place than it is this.
Yes, and that's,
When
again,
it's
that's
on
why
the
I
road,
asked, because
yeah.
I don't do that for a living, but that's why I was curious as to how that works.
I would like to know how far the building would be from the edge of the road. We know it's 10 feet back from the property line, but you've got other distances until you hit the edge of the road.
Well, that's what's on this drawing. It looks like it is, from the center of the road, it's 28 feet, so take 10 foot out for a travel lane, so it's 18 feet from edge of pavement, and then I'm seeing, I guess that number is 10 feet, so that means it would be 28 feet from the edge of pavement,
Okay?
which would indicate to me that it's 28 feet from this edge of pavement to to the edge of the building is 28 feet.
28 feet, okay.
All right. So moving along then, it's time for the rebuttal by the applicant. Sir, if you'd like to come forward. Go ahead.
From the the building I'm wanting to build to the center of the water line is 13 foot. Before that grade goes up, I would guesstimate there's probably another 12 foot past that on the other side of the water line. So that's putting almost 25 foot of level ground in there, that if they ever had to bring sewers in there or something like that, there's more than enough right-of-way, area there to put whatever they had to do. And basically, the phone company said the same thing. If their line would ever go bad that's under that building, they have the right to direct bore under it, and I understand that. But he said they will not do that. They will just go around the building and go right down that level area where the water line's at and extend their cable on back. And I guess I'm thinking is, in the future too, if it's sewers would ever go in there, there's still enough room between the building and the road to do whatever they have to do. You know, I talked to LG&E.
28 feet.
Huh?
28 feet.
Yeah, there's, before it starts going up the hillside, say. Yeah, I would say 25 feet, but
Okay.
of level ground. But
Oh, okay.
like LG&E said, they will never come in there and put underground because everybody would have to agree to it, and everybody that agreed to it back where I live would have to pay for it. spectrum be the same way, and even if they ran gas in there at a future. They will not run gas in that part of the neighborhood unless everybody in that neighborhood agreed to pay to have that gas put in there. Said it's not gonna happen. And they're not gonna do it because it costs too much. So I guess my feelings is there's enough room between where I would want to build the building and to Lincoln Trail that if anything had to be moved, there would be room to put it in there. The phone company even told me, he says, well, I'm in actually your building line. He says, I guess you could make me move it if I had to. And I said, well, no, I'm not gonna make you move it because they're not even in the utility right away. But basically, that's all I got.
Okay, so if I understand your testimony, what you're saying is you want to leave your request as it stands.
Yes.
Okay? Questions? All right, thank you. Tom, I need to get some clarification here, because we were throwing around numbers, 28 feet, 25 feet, 40 feet variance, because what we're saying here in the paper as we've listed, it says it's requesting a 40-foot variance, so the side yard setback is only 10 feet.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, it is.
Sorry?
So there are two frontages, so Jim is correct. It should say front yard setback variance, as there are frontage along Commonwealth and Lincoln Trail.
Okay, so, but 10 feet would be 10 feet from the edge of the road or the center of the road?
Property line.
Property line.
Which is center.
Center of the road, no.
No. This is not a survey, but that yellow line is the property line.
Okay,
It's not from the center of the road, it's all setbacks are measured from the property line.
okay.
And you had an exhibit that showed that.
Sure.
The one that has the, there. Yeah. This, the red line is the property line. It's not, if you look, I guess Lincoln Trail, it doesn't say the road right-of-way width, but that's, let's just say it's 60 feet.
Okay.
So the red line is outside of the right-of-way. In that right-of-way is the road, and it's probably 10 feet from the red line. So
Gotcha. Okay.
it's all setbacks are measured from the property line.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we need to move to the next. Okay. Obviously, we didn't have anybody speaking in opposition, so there's no rebuttal. Any final statements by the applicant? Nope. Any final questions by the board? All right. I will now close the floor at this point and move to discussion by the board.
I think we've heard enough testimony about this application. And I think I understand about the feet that we have. That's the reason I asked the question, is what's the distance between the building itself and the road? Because in the future, there is enough room there to do any work underground, in my opinion. This is the maximum amount that we've had, but every case stands on their own. There's some folks that don't need 40, some folks just need 5. There's some folks that can move. This is a difficult case, situation. I appreciate the applicant advising us about if you move the back and you have the slope of the, coming off of Lincoln Trail, then you have to, even that out, because how do you, I have driven a wrecker with the
testimony.
ball. I have driven, is that testimony?
Yeah, if you tell about what you've done,
Okay.
that's
okay, okay.
testimony, so you
Never
can't-
have done that. Anyway, I understand the applicant, what he's faced with, and I have no problem with the original application.
I have a number of problems with the applicant, with the application as it's been submitted. When we're talking about the character of the neighborhood, no structure, as I was looking at the overhead views of even the block garage directly across the street, from the best I can tell from the aerial photographs, is within the building limit. When we're talking about it, we referenced not having a crystal ball, sewers, fiber optic, gas lines, and things of that nature. Yes, there may be space if you wanted to do something. We don't know what the future holds, but more importantly, to Rob's point, those building limits are put in place for a reason. We're not talking about we need a 3% encroachment, we need a 5% encroachment. We're talking about we need 100% encroachment, all of the building in its entirety, and then an additional 10 feet is beyond. And we tried to discuss options with the applicant as to trying to move the building back in an effort to lessen the penetration into this area and reduce the amount of the encroachment requested. As I'm looking, it says that it's approximately 10 feet from the property line, not meaning that we're trying to grant 10 feet of encroachment. We're talking about the entire structure, and being on a corner lot and I was looking for the precedents that had been established previously. Based on the way that it's been submitted, I understand what the property owner's attempting to achieve. I would be inclined to not approve this as submitted. I would have liked to have seen some level of trying to lessen the amount of encroachment. It's a massive penetration into that building limit, and no portion of that building is beyond the building limit. But I was looking for other structures to try and give me a reason to want to support it, but as it's submitted and with the applicant stating that he wants to leave it as is, based on as it's submitted, as is with the testimony we've received, I will be inclined to not want to support the approval.
I understand, but I think it's, to make a decision this quick, sitting in this courtroom without going back to see what he could really do, I think would be asking too much. I think if anything would be, to be considered that the applicant could go back and really think about this, if there's things that he could do.
I would be inclined to agree with what you just stated, and Jim Urban made that same recommendation, and if the applicant at this moment would like to table this, I would be inclined to support that, to give him ample time to process this and seriously consider it. Maybe he could do a test demonstration with his automobile on the property. I would be inclined to want to look at other options, but as it sits at this moment, I would be inclined not to want to
Fair
support
enough.
or the approval.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
I have to agree with the two of you. I think what we're after here as well, I realize there's a down step that happens from the road. This 100% encroachment, again, I can't tell you what's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. This neighborhood's going to be here for a long time. What are we going to need? Who envisioned fiber optics not that long ago? Who envisioned what? The encroachment here, for me, while I think that there is a fall off in the property, it's not extensive enough for me to say that there's no other options. And I'm sorry that he bought the property and didn't know about what it is that we could do on the property, or not do on the property, I guess is the better way of saying it. But at this point, I can't support the application as it stands.
Are we within our rights to ask, or within the protocol of asking if the applicant would like to table this while they give it further discussion and then see if they could come back? Are we within those parameters?
To do that, we would have to open the floor and correct tape if we wanted to ask the applicant if he wanted to table it, because at this point, it sounds like it would be turned down. We'd have to open the floor.
Let's open it up again and call him back forward, and he's heard the comments, and he can say, yes, I'd like to have a table for another, give me more time to think about it. Or no, so we have to proceed on it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to reopen the floor?
I'd like to make a motion that we reopen the floor and give the applicant an opportunity to come up and consider if they'd like to table this until he has an opportunity to consider it further.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Sir, applicant, can we have you come forward, please? So, sir, as you've heard, while there has not been an official vote taken, it appears that, based on the discussion, that your application might be turned down, or likely would be turned down based on what's been said. We'd like to give you the option to table it and consider the options for future, which could be either the next month or the month after, to come back before this board. Would you like that option, or would you like us to continue into a motion and vote on it as it stands?
Yeah, I'd like to have that option.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, so as you've heard, the applicant would like to have the option to have this table for him to consider other options. To do that, we would have to have a motion to table.
I'd like to make a motion to table docket OC 19-015 to a future hearing.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. All in favor of tabling OC-19-015 signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same option? None. Motion carries. We now have tabled OC-19-015. All right.
Are we ready, Mr. Chairman, for the next docket?
We are ready, sir.
Docket OC 19-020, an application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed addition located at 5301 Bexley Cove, Buckner.
Good morning, Amy Alvey with Oldham County Planning Development Services. As Mr. Riley stated, this is an application requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed addition at property located at 5301 Bexley Cove in Buckner. The property is zoned R2 residential and is approximately 1.003 acres. This is an aerial view of the property outlined in red. You'll see this is the intersection of Bexley Cove and Summerlin. Again, this just shows the existing zoning. This is a structure view that just shows the existing single-family home in dark gray, and then this is the driveway. There is no previous site history regarding this property, so it's not been before the board on any other issues. So again, the applicant is requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed addition, which will be a master bedroom and bath to the existing home. The home is located on a corner lot, as the same as your previous case, and must observe the 50-foot building line as shown as on the recorded record plat for Darby Point subdivision on both frontages along Bexley Cove and Summerlin. The existing home sits at an angle on the lot, and the proposed addition would be 40.5 feet from the side property line. Again, that is on Summerlin Drive, and approximately 121 square feet of the proposed addition would be the only portion that would encroach into that side yard setback. So this is the survey that was performed and submitted with the application. You'll see the existing home is highlighted here in green. The proposed addition is in the dark green area here. This is your 50-foot side yard setback. So you'll see the corner as shown is 40.5 feet. So this a little area highlighted in yellow, that is the 121 square feet of area of the proposed addition that will encroach into the side yard setback. This is the floor plan. You should also have that in your staff report. It shows what the proposed addition will be. And then these are the elevations. So the front elevation, this is what will be seen at street level, the rear elevation, and then the right side as well. According to the applicant's justification statement, the addition would not harm the public safety and welfare of anyone. Okay, this is looking at from Bexley Cove into the front yard. So this is the front of the applicant's home. This is the right side yard. Again, this is Summerlin here. This is the area of the proposed addition. This is the left side yard. So the left side yard is occupied for the driveway that loads into the side entry garage. This is the south adjoining property owner. So if you're standing in the street looking at the applicant's home, this is the home to the left. This is the south view on Bexley Cove. This is the north view. So this is back looking at that intersection. This is the east adjoining property, so this is across the street from the applicant's home, but it is offset. If you look at your little area map at the bottom, it's more diagonal to the applicant's home. So in summary, the applicant is requesting a side yard setback. The required side yard is 50 feet. The proposed side yard for this addition is 40.5 feet, so they are asking for a variance of 9.5 feet. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Amy. All right, if we could have the applicant come forward.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and address, please.
Jack Shea, 5301 Bexley Cove, Buckner,
Said
Kentucky.
Jack.
Jack.
Okay.
John is my legal name, Jack's my nickname.
Gotcha.
So,
All right, sir, if you could explain what you're trying to accomplish, what it is that you've considered, and justify your project.
all right, well, we wanted to add on to the home to make our bedroom bigger, have a bigger master bath, have a redo the end of the home, extend the house in the basement and make it a walkout to have the home bigger, improve the value of the home. And if you can see how the house is sitting on the lot, whoever built the house originally is kind of cocked on the lot, which probably made this variance request happen, because if the house was straight, probably wouldn't even be here today. We tried to go into the variance area as little as possible. We had considered going out back, and there's septic in the back that could be interfered with. Our deck extends in the back that you don't see, but it goes over to that point. There would be a lot of things that we would have to potentially move or, take down. And the builder that I am dealing with said this was actually the best option that we had to add on to the home. So I don't know what else I could tell you that would help.
Okay? All right, any questions of the applicant?
I do. Have you communicated with the utilities? Have you had Bud come out and mark this location as to knowing what you've got underground within that 10 feet that you're requesting?
I have not.
There's only a 15-foot telephone and gas easement that is here. There are no easements in the other
That far
35
in?
feet
Okay.
of the area.
Just trying to think out ahead of what you could potentially run into
Right.
is why I asked that question.
Okay.
But Amy gave us clarity on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none. Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Also seeing none. So, is there anything you'd like to add as the applicant in the rebuttal process? Okay, no rebuttal. Obviously, no rebuttal by the opposition because there is none. And we go into final statements. Anything else? Guess not. And for the board, any questions that you'd like to ask of staff or the applicant? All right. Having seen none, we'll go into discussion by the board, and we'll close the floor at this point. Excuse me.
I think it's a reasonable request, and I think it meets all of our guidelines. I'm very comfortable with it.
I agree. I think it's a minor intrusion. I don't think it's going to affect anything negatively.
My only point would be is, instead of limiting the variance to 9.5, just making it even 10 feet to allow for any exterior veneer that might be thicker than something, or to that point, just to make it clean. But based on the testimony in the applicant's request, I'd be inclined to approve it, just with the fact that we should make the variance be at 10 foot instead of 9.5.
Right. I'm in agreement of everything that's been said to this point, and I definitely would recommend the extra 6 inches just for in case there's some variance in the building process, as we've seen other people have to come back before this board if they sell the property at some point and we find out that the building
That's a
was
good
an inch
point.
and a half into it.
Thank you.
I agree with that. I can't think of any conditions of approval. I think this is pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. It is, part of the case here is the existing house, in fact, is placed at a different manner. And, you know, if the house had been stuck up in the corner, it'd make it more difficult, but I don't think this is any large circumvention into the area, so it seems reasonable to me. Any other comments? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve docket OC 19-020, side yard setback variance of 10 feet due to the angle of the existing structure on the property in order to construct a master bedroom and bath addition, and because only a corner of the addition will encroach into the setback approximately 121 feet. It will not adversely affect the essential character of the surrounding neighborhood. It will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. Conditions of approval. This variance shall only apply to the application considered at the July 19, 2019 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the variance as stated in the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Riley, if you could read the next application.
Docket OC 19021, an application has been filed requesting a maximum floor area and location variance for a proposed structure located at 4401 Smith Lane, The Grange.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Parcel is zoned AG1 Agriculture Residential. The size is 0.87 acres. Here we have an aerial, followed by a zoning map. Here it's important to show that the contour map, everything, or there's a steep drop off all the way down around here. So we'll get further into that, but I just want to point that out now. Per section 250.030B, the total maximum floor area of accessory structures for parcels between 20,001 square feet up to 0.99 acres is 1,200 square feet, and the maximum number of accessory structures allowed is 2. The property in question today is 37,897 square feet. The applicant is proposing a 1,500 square foot, so 50 by 30 detached garage on the property. The total square footage is 300 square feet over the allowable 1,200. And the building will be used to store a 24-foot boat and a pickup truck. Here we have the submitted graphics by the applicant. In addition, per section 250.030E, no accessory use or structure shall be located in between the principal building and the front yard property line. Accessory structure shall adhere to street side yard setbacks. The applicant is requesting a location variance to allow the proposed detached garage to be 20 feet from the front property line, approximately 25 feet in front of the principal structure, and 8 feet from the side property line. The principal structure, per the applicant's plot plan, shows to be 45 feet from the front property line, which deems it to be a legal, non-conforming structure. Here's the plot plan submitted by the applicant. So here, 45 feet there, 20 feet here, 8 feet there. Per the applicant's justification statement, the majority of the usable land is in the front yard, as the backyard is very narrow with a steep drop off into the woods, per the contour map. The original detached garage has been demolished because it was falling down the hillside. A large number of homeowners in the near vicinity have large attached buildings/garages for personal use and storage. The detached garage will be built of good quality and appearance, matching the color scheme of the principal structure. The detached garage will have a finished interior as to increase the home value and usable space. Structure proposed to go somewhere around here. Something like that. Here's a 24-foot boat that will go inside the proposed structure. Here's the corner back here. And here, as you can see, is a steep drop off. So most of the space, like the applicant stated, is in the front yard. There's essentially no backyard that's usable for the building. It's another picture of how steep it is. So here we are looking south down Smith Lane, looking north across the street from the driveway into a pasture. Here we are looking north on Smith Lane, and here we are looking west into the property. So in summary, an application has been filed requesting a maximum floor area and location variance for a proposed structure located at 4401 Smith Lane in LaGrange. Be happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Can you go back to the picture where you were showing, right there, one more. Is that where you're holding the camera level?
Yes, sir.
Can you go to the one where, I can't remember before, yeah, right there. So construction is already going on here?
I'm not aware of any permits that have been pulled, and I do not know what those blocks are. I would deflect that question to the applicant. Yeah, I have no idea why that's there.
Okay. So so it's really two variances. Maximum area for the building
Correct.
and the location variance because this will be in front of the principal structure.
Correct.
And is it also a setback variance then as well?
I think that was, a question was brought up by Member Riley on whether or not setback variance is needed. And It wouldn't be a bad idea to necessarily make two motions if you consider the location of this as appropriate, to have two motions, one for the setback and then, but if you are approving this location, it in essence approves the variance. So I would defer to the council on that.
So there would be the maximum floor footage,
Yes.
there's a location, and you're saying we can either assume that setback variance, or to make it clear, would be a third motion to create a setback variance.
That's correct. It would be clearer to go ahead and consider that if the location is appropriate.
As the chair of this meeting, I would prefer to
Yes.
make clarity so that there's no confusion.
Right.
If the other members are so inclined.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. So there were really three things before us, to be clear. The square footage, setback, then, and the location. So it would be three separate motions with three separate things if we were to approve. Any questions for Tom?
I do. Tom, while you were driving out to this location to take these photographs, the images that you showed on the street view didn't indicate any neighboring properties. Did you observe any large buildings along that section of roadway within a reasonable distance of the property that we're discussing at this time, having outbuildings of sorts nearer to the road than the structure?
No, I did not, but that is, there's a simple answer for that. So I drove up this from here.
Yes.
Up this street, so I had no reason to go all the way up Smith Lane. So I pulled up, turned around the driveway to the site, and then just came right back down. So I never drove up this street.
Okay.
But in future meetings, I'll start to make sure to look around the surrounding area for things that are similar to this. And
I'm just curious as to what the
Absolutely,
character
sure.
is and, what's the precedence may be or what's going on. Because just past the area where your automobile stopped, I'm seeing a number of properties with a number of structures on it. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around what may be occurring just past where you stopped your vehicle.
I'm not testifying, I'm clarifying, familiar with
Thank
the
you.
area. So this is the applicant's property. There's a home here with a detached garage. There's a home here with a detached garage. There's a home here with a building in the rear. And then across the street, it'd be kind of catty corner to this one. There's a home here with a detached garage, and then this is a barn.
Thank you, Amy. That was the information I was seeking.
Sure.
Thank you.
Very good. Other questions for Tom? If not, thank you, Tom. We could have the applicant come forward.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and address.
Shane Caramy, 4401 Smith Lane.
All right, sir, if you could explain to us what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it the way you are.
So we had a detached garage that was on site when we built the house, and it's about where, on this picture, where these blocks in the pad are. Before we started doing grading and the demo of the garage, the hillside, it was starting to fall down the hillside, so it wasn't really usable. We wanted to demo that garage, build the detached garage that we're proposing, and finish the attached garage that's on the house. The reason for where we need to put the garage where we're proposing is because of the topography. We can't push it much further back. It would encroach into the hillside, and I don't feel comfortable building it that close because we saw the problems with the original garage that was there. In the future, in the next year or so, we do want to finish the inside of the attached garage on the house. We've got a growing family, there's no basement, not a whole lot of storage in the house, so we'd like to finish that portion of it and use this detached garage for 2 cars, a boat, workshop area. In the plan that shows the original plot plan, I originally wanted to do a 30 by 60. After finding out what the maximum floor area square footage was, I thought that might be asking a little too much, so we dropped it down to a 30 by 50. The plan that shows 20 feet from the property line would now be closer to 30 feet from the property line, almost 36 feet from the road. The edge property, the side yard, when we laid the garage out, and one reason why we've done the excavating is to see exactly where we would be able to put the detached garage and how we could turn around in the driveway, give us enough space, and not run as too close to the side yard. We did the excavating. We would be about, there's a fence on the neighbor's fence actually is on my property line. So our property line from the back of the garage is going to be, or sorry, the side of the garage is going to be close to 12 feet in the front. It kind of bottlenecks a little bit to the back, but it'll still be over 8 feet. So it answered the question on the other variance. I thought that the rule was 5 feet. As long as we stayed further than 5 feet from the property line, I thought we would be okay there. The overall square footage of it, we are within 0.1 acre of being able to go bigger and not have to have the variance, which I did not think was a unreasonable ask to go, especially when we wanted to do the 30 by 4 or 30 by 60, but I deducted it because I didn't want to ask too much. It will be a good-looking structure. It's a metal building with wainscoting, 2 16-foot doors. It will look very similar to, I don't know if I can put that on there. Very similar to this picture, only without the dormers. This was the closest thing I could find to it. So it will look very nice. I think we are not, we are improving the property. We are not in a neighborhood. One reason why we bought this house 5-6 years ago was because I didn't expect to really have to do this. I thought we could kind of do what we wanted to with it. We didn't want to buy in a neighborhood to have to deal with this sort of stuff. But once we kind of got into it and realized we had to pull the permits and the variances, we'll go through that process. But the house across the street from us does have 2 structures that are also in front of the house. I think the barn itself is about the same distance from the road as what this building would be. I think that's what I got.
So based on your testimony, the drawing as submitted shows it 20 feet back, but you're saying that's now incorrect because you're proposing it to be 30 feet back?
The original plot plan that I drew was based on a 30 by 60. So if we make it 30 by 50, it would be about 30 feet back from the property line. So that original number said 60. I changed it to 50. This would change to about 30 feet. And I think we're about 36 feet from the edge of the road, which I think would be good for, there was a 50-foot easement, so 25 feet from the center of the road. I think we're well off of that. The back of the building on this side, before that hillside really starts to drop off, is pushing 20 feet. The original detached garage that was here was about 10 feet from where that hillside started to drop off, and with the problems that foundation had and it falling down, I did not feel comfortable pushing it really any further back. the way that we've graded the land and moved some of the dirt, it was a very unusable backyard. I managed to get a couple more feet out of it by moving the dirt, so now it's usable. I've looked into turning the building this way, but we cannot do that with access to the garage. And I really think by turning it that way, I'd be left with almost an 80-foot wide driveway. I don't think it's very aesthetically pleasing. I think this is a much better look, a much better layout. It's better use of the land. Right now, most of the land, there really was no backyard. It's all in the front and the side yard. This is all septic field over here, and again starts to drop off on this side. So kind of going through everything, it's really I thought was our best option, best location to get the best use out of the land and the building.
Question, Tom. We originally talked about maximum square footage, location variance, front yard setback variance, but are we not also looking at a side yard setback variance? Because it says it's only 8 feet.
Accessory structure setbacks are 5 feet on the side and rear. They must meet the front yard setbacks. Because accessory structures typically, or not typically, are not allowed to be located in the front yard.
Right.
So a side yard and rear yard accessory structure setbacks are 5 feet.
5 feet. So we're okay there. All right.
Amy, what is the front yard setback?
The front yard setback on this is 50 feet.
50 feet?
Yes, sir.
Well, the house is a non-conforming house, I guess, built before the zoning,
Correct.
correct? Was the original barn, where was the location of the original barn,
The original garage,
or whatever yellow thing?
it was behind the house. So it was behind the 50-foot line.
Questions of the applicant?
I do. Shane, you've heard me with the previous applicants. I'm going to ask about the infrastructure. There's probably not much going on along this road, but my first question would be is water line location. Have you identified or had a conversation regarding the water line?
I had Dig come out. The current, the water line and the current meter and everything are located right here. The water line comes back to the house this way. There are no utilities or anything on this side of the driveway.
So you have researched that?
Yes.
Okay. So when I'm referring to the water line, not the supplies specifically to your home, but for the water line that services Smith Lane, that's not an issue within the distance that you're suggesting, is that correct?
Not with the setback of being at 30 feet.
Thank you.
Further questions?
I have a question for the applicant. Why would not a 1,200 square foot building work? Since your boat is 24 feet long, the pickup truck's about 16. Why do you, and then you also have a garage attached to your home, is that correct?
So the current garage is about 24 feet wide. The layout of this new garage would have a 16-foot door here, a 16-foot door here, and a man door on this side. We'd be able to get the boat and trailer in, the truck. I'd have another Jeep that we would park in. Eventually, we'd like to finish the attached garage and make it a finished living space. But when we move the 2 cars over and a boat, also have a workshop, the 50 feet you start using it up pretty quickly.
As part of your testimony that if the property were only I think you said 0.1, I think the technical is, if it was up to it was at an acre, Tom, what would be allowable?
0.99 acres.
Can you come up here and, at 0.99, what would be the allowed structure on the property?
After that, it'd be 1,800. once you hit.
Right. So if his property is .87, if it was .99, you could have the square footage
If
you
you
just
were up
mentioned.
to, if you're, it's 20,001 square feet to 0.99 acres. Once you hit 1, then you're at 1,800.
Okay. And 1,800 is what you were originally thinking, but you
Original
brought it
one.
down so that it would be 30 feet instead of 20 feet from the property.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's considered a legal non-conforming lot because this lot was created prior to the 1 acre rule for septic. So the property is served by septic, but it's less than 1 acre, so.
Thank you.
And I do have, I thought it might help, but I do have an affidavit from the surrounding property owners saying that I've presented the plan to them and they do not mind. They basically signed off on it.
If you're submitting that into evidence, I'd like to see it on the screen and then have a copy for us.
I think I've got 2
Oh.
copies of it.
And I'd still like to see it up there then.
This I kind of took from the Jefferson County website, but basically saying that I presented the plan to them. They've all been over, walked the property, looked at it. I've showed them pictures of what the building would look like, and honestly, most of their response was, "Why don't you go bigger?" So, but all of the surrounding property owners did sign off on
Can you
it.
move that over just a little bit so it's on the screen? A little more, keep going. The second, we can't see the second sheet. There you go, thank you. There you go. Additional questions?
Yes. The intent of building the structure is to house equipment and material and stuff like that, is that correct?
Yes, it'll be used as a garage, but also as a workshop. I work on the house
As a
quite a bit.
workshop.
I
Garage, workshop?
yes.
Okay.
No commercial activity?
Will it have any plumbing or electricity in it?
I will have electric in it eventually, but no plumbing.
No plumbing?
The original detached garage did have electric. It had service ran to it. I've cut it off, capped it off for now when we did the demo on it. Eventually, I'll run the electric into the new garage.
But no plumbing, is that correct?
No plumbing.
Okay.
Make sure I understood you correctly. You testified that you intend to take the existing attached garage and convert that to living space so that you can expand your ability within the house, therefore you're losing that garage space that kind of warrants this here. And if I'm looking at your schematic correctly, you're going to have addition issues if in the event that you don't convert that garage because you have your septic and your laterals on the other side of the home, and based on your topography, you're not going to be able to extend out the rear of the home either.
Correct. I cannot go in the rear. I cannot go to the left because of the septic, and can't go in the front because of the setback.
Sure, so you can foresee wanting to convert that garage space as you testified, and that's another reason for the size of the building you're proposing?
Yes.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we would take testimony from anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, we would now go into rebuttals, having not seen anybody speak in favor. Is there anything else you'd like to say? And even on, I guess we're even moving down to final statements. Anything you'd like to add? If you do, you'd have to speak it from the podium. All right. Board members, are there any questions you'd like to ask of staff or the applicant? All right. If not, we'll close the floor for comment and go into discussion.
I'd like to make a motion, we take a recess. It's 11:15,
Okay, and for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what would you like to do?
at least 10 minutes,
Okay, so let's do we have a motion for 10 minutes.
yes.
Okay, we have a motion for 10 minutes to recess. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're in recess for the next 10 minutes. If you could set up there, and if you could have mics off, please.